Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Starting with the name of Allah, who is the most merciful and beneficent. First of all, my name is Kashyaf Hassan and my department is BS Biochemistry and my ID is 210062320004. The subject of assignment is Principle of Chemistry directed by Dr. Hammad Majeed. The topic of my presentation is primary standards. Today I'd like to talk to you about primary standard and some acids. First of all, content, introduction, examples, properties, some acid as a primary standard, oxalic acid, benzoic acid, potassium chloride, dichromates, how to make standard solution, and last one is reference. So let's start with what is primary standard. One of the uses of primary standard is to standardize a volumetric solution. That means they are used for standardization of titration of solutions. It can be used for titration of acids as well as bases. Let us see how our primary standard is used for titration. Generally, they are used in titration like firstly acid-base titration, second redox titration, third participation titration, and finally complexometric titration. So let's get started. Another definition of primary standard. Primary standard in metrology is a standard that is sufficiently accurate such that it is not calibrated or subordinate to other standards. Primary standards are defined where other quantities like length, mass, times, primary standards are used to calibrate other standards referred as working standards. For example, sodium carbonate. So what is sodium carbonate? Sodium carbonate is an organic compound with the formula is Na2CO3 and its various hydrates all form a white odorless water-soluble salt. They yield moderately alkaline solution in water. Historically, it was extracted from the ashes of plant growing in sodium-rich soil. Finally, the formula is Na2CO3. So we'll talk about another few examples. First of all, sodium oxalate. Sodium oxalate or sodium disodium oxalate is the sodium salt of oxalic acid with the formula is Na2C2O4. It is a white crystalline odorless solid that decomposes about 290 Celsius. Disodium oxalate can act as a reducing agent and it may be used as a primary standard for standardizing potassium permanganate solutions. Its molar mass is 134 gram per mole. Formula is Na2C2O4. Density is 2.34 grams centimeter per cube. Secondly, we'll look at sodium tetraborate. So what is sodium tetraborate? Borax is a powdery white substance also known as sodium borate, sodium tetraborate or disodium tetraborate. It's widely used as a household cleaner or booster for laundry detergents. It's combination of boron, sodium and oxygen. Thirdly, we look at about potassium dichromate. So what is sodium dichromate? Sodium dichromate is a common inorganic chemical reagent most commonly used as oxidizing agent in various laboratory and industrial applications as with the hexavalent chromium compound. It is acutely and chronically harmful to health. The formula is potassium dichromate. Is K2Cr2O7. Molar mass is 294.185 gram per mole. Density is 2.68 gram per centimeter cubes. And next we look at potassium iodate. So defines potassium iodate. Potassium iodate is a primary standard because it's difficult to obtain the pure state of. It is not free from MnO2. Also the color is so intense that it acts as own indicators. So define potassium hydrogen iodate. Potassium hydrogen iodate acts as an oxidizing agent. Further, it serves as an intermediate for the synthesis of potassium iodate, also used as analyzing reagent. So let's move on some properties of primary standard. First of all, high purity. What is high purity? Primary standard are high pure. High pure is certain when all calculations are based on a single species. Moreover, the standardization process will be much easier and reliable if standard is pure. Secondly, high stability. Primary standard should be high stable. Less stable substances do not work uninterrupted, which makes the reactive and unstable to use as standards. And thirdly, low reactivity. A primary standard must have low reactivity. Reactive substances cause deviation in the results of chemical analysis for which they are not used as a primary standard. And fourthly, high equivalent weight. Primary standard should have a high relative molecular weight so that the weighing error may be minimized. The precision in weighing in ordinary is 0.1 to 0.2 mg. For accuracy of 1 part is 1000, it is necessary to employ samples weighing at least 0.2 gram. Fifthly, secondary standards. Fifthly, non-toxicity. They are not non-toxicity, reads and cheap availability. So let's move on some acid as a primary standard. First of all, oxalic acid. Oxalic acid is suitable for use as a primary standard and can then be used to standardize other solutions. This is the formula of primary standard, and structure of primary standard is there. Secondly, benzoic acid. It is an organic compound which is described by the chemicals. It consists of carboxyl groups attached to benzene rings. Therefore, benzoic acid is said to be aromatic carboxylic acid. The compound exists as a crystalline, colorless solid under normal conditions. The formula of benzoic acid is C6H5COOH. The structure of this formula is described as there. This is. So next, potassium chloride. Potassium chloride is used to prevent or to treat low blood levels of potassium hypokalemia. Potassium level can be low as a result of a disease or from taking certain medicines or after a prolonged illness with the diarrhea or vomiting. Formula is K plus chlorine negative. Potassium dichromate is a weaker oxidizing agent than MKMNO4 or Ce. However, it is a primary standard and its solution have long-lasting stability in acids and are stable to lights, most organic matters and to chloride ion. It's always used in acid solutions. This is the formula. K plus O negative minus Cr double bond O, नीचे भी double bond on O, the single bond O bond Cr double bond O negative K plus. So how to make standard solutions? Primary standard is the reference chemical used to measure an unknown concentrations of an error known chemicals. It can be used directly when performing titration or used to calibrate standard solutions. In chemistry, primary standard is a reagent which is very pure, representative of the number of moles the substance contains and easily weighed. A reagent is a chemical that is used to cause a chemical reaction with another substances. Often reagents are used to test for the presence or quantity of specific chemical in solutions. Calculations are done to fix approximately weights of the primary standard chemicals needed to up to known as volume of the standard solutions. Second, the primary standard is carefully weighed out an electronic balance. Thirdly, the solid is then transferred into the rinsed volumetric flask. Fourth, it is made sure the solid is dissolved completely. Fifth, a volume of the distilled water is added to the flask to make up the required volume. Sixth, the prepared solution are then labeled for further usage. Why do we use primary standard and how this is work? Basically, primary standard are used to make dilution of a working solution for exactly the same reason. Because the concentration of the primary standard is known with a high degree of confidence, the concentration of solution made from it is also known as high degree of accuracy. This photo clearly shows your reference as you can see these slides. So thank you so much. That's all my slides. So that cover everything about this topic. So that brings to make the end of my presentation. To conclude, I'd like to say before we finish, I'd like to leave you with one final thoughts. So thank you so much.